Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is embarking on a 3-day visit to the United States this week. This will be a high-powered diplomatic tour coming at a time when India has stepped up diplomatic efforts to bring Russia and Ukraine to the negotiating table and out of the battlefield. He's got a packed schedule with various bilateral and multilateral meetings lined up on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Meetings with business and industry leaders are also expected. But one of the most watched out for events is going to be on the 21st, where the 6th Quad Leaders Summit will be hosted this time by US President Biden in his Delaware residence. Modi's also got a massive event with the Indian Diaspora on the 22nd, an address at the Summit of the Future on the 23rd, and a purported meeting with former US President Donald Trump. So let's dive right into the Prime Minister's flashy itinerary and why this US tour is so important. This is Shubhangi Sharma for CNN News 18. Let's get started. The first leg of the Prime Minister's tour begins not in New York or DC, but in Delaware. On the 21st, all eyes will be on Wilmington, Delaware, where President Biden is hosting the leaders of India, US, Japan, and Australia for the Quad Summit in his very own residence. This is a rare gesture made by the US President, and it reflects the depths to which the Quad has traveled as an informal yet effective grouping. Some major announcements are expected because the timing is critical, as Biden won't be running for re-election and Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is also stepping down soon. This meeting is also particularly important for outgoing President Joe Biden's legacy. In fact, the US swapped the dates with India to host the summit this year. You see, it was actually India that was supposed to be hosting the Quad Summit this year, but it will now be doing so in 2025 with a new set of leaders from Japan and the US. The Quad Alliance has steadily grown into a powerful group aimed at countering Chinese influence in the Indo-Pacific. Discussions this time will focus on topics like security, trade, supply chains, and technology cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. The summit will not only review progress made in the last year, but also discuss how to further assist Indo-Pacific nations in achieving their development goals, an area where India has been increasingly active through initiatives like infrastructure development, technology sharing, and capacity building. India will also be signing a slew of agreements with the leaders of these countries at the bilateral level. With the culmination of the Quad Summit, Prime Minister Modi will head to one of the prime events of his visit. This is a grand Diaspora event, which is going by the name Modi and US Progress Together. It will be held in New York on September 22nd. More than 24,000 Indian Americans have already signed up, and the number is expected to be much higher. This event is not just about connecting with the Indian diaspora, but also about solidifying India's soft power. Indian Americans form a crucial part of the US electorate and business community, and Modi's engagement with them strengthens India's constructive influence in the US. With a population exceeding 5 million, Indian Americans represent about 1.5% of the US population. The New York City metro area alone is home to over 711,000 people of Indian origin. This is an influential diaspora group known for its achievements across fields of science, tech, and business. Indian Americans are an important cog in the wheel of India-US relations. From the Madison Square Garden event in New York in 2014 to the Howdy Modi event in Houston in 2019, Prime Minister Modi has leveraged his popularity within this group to assert India's bargaining power. Lately, relations with the US have hit minor hurdles with differences over India's strategic autonomy and the emergence of the Khalistan issue, particularly allegations of India's involvement in murder plots targeting Khalistani terrorists. Modi's visit, including the grand display of support from the diaspora, will go a long way into stressing before the US the importance of accepting the merits of India's independent foreign policy and taking the matter of Khalistani terror seriously. This visit also comes at a time when India emerged as a significant player in efforts to bring Russia and Ukraine to the table. Over the past few months, there has been a flurry of diplomatic activity, with India engaging both of the warring sides. In June, Prime Minister Modi met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the G7 summit in Japan. In July, he traveled to Moscow for a high-stakes meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Then in August, Modi went to Kiev in Ukraine, that is the battlefield, to meet Zelensky once again. He later spoke with President Biden on the phone to discuss his meeting with Zelensky. Most recently, India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval was in Russia, where he spoke to Putin about Modi's meeting with Zelensky in Kiev. Both the West and Russia have been extensively engaged by India on this matter, and therefore Modi's US visit may contribute further to this effort. Moving forward, on the 23rd, Prime Minister Modi will address the Summit of the Future at the UNGA in New York on September 23rd. This year's theme, Multilateral Solutions for a Better Tomorrow, aligns perfectly with India's message of reforming global governance structures to better reflect the current world order. Modi is expected to emphasize multilateralism, climate action, and global peacekeeping, while reiterating India's demand for greater representation in international bodies, particularly the United Nations Security Council, the UNSC. Further, there are talks about a possible meeting with Muhammad Yunus, the leader of the new caretaker government of Bangladesh. Meanwhile, Donald Trump and his team have announced plans to meet Modi, although no such announcement has been made by India so far. Recently, Trump called the Indian Prime Minister a fantastic man and said that they will be meeting. This is significant as the US is very close to a presidential election, with Trump polling neck-to-neck with his rival Vice President Kamala Harris. All in all, it's a power-packed week in diplomacy ahead. So stay engaged as News 18 brings you all of the latest developments from Modi's US tour.